Relative clauses. A relative clause is a great way to add more detail to the main noun in a sentence. A famous voyage in 1831 was led by Charles Darwin, who was an English naturalist. In this sentence, the main clause is, a famous voyage in 1831 was led by Charles Darwin. This makes sense on its own, and you can see it here written in black. The relative clause, written in blue, provides extra information and starts with a relative pronoun, written in orange, who was an English naturalist. As we mentioned, relative pronouns introduce relative clauses. These are examples of relative pronouns: that, which, who, whose, where, and when. Mr. Darwin was pondering over a giant tortoise who was basking in the sun. In this example, who was basking in the sun provides more information about the tortoise. The relative pronoun who is used to connect the relative clause to the main clause. A relative clause is a type of subordinate clause. A relative clause comes directly after the noun it provides extra information about. This can be at the end of a sentence or embedded in the middle of a sentence. Mr. Darwin had his magnifying glass, which was homemade, poised and ready. Here, the relative clause, which was homemade, is in the middle of the main clause. It relates to the magnifying glass and is introduced by the relative pronoun which. When the relative clause is in the middle of a main clause, we call this embedded. Sims Covington, who used to be the ship's fiddler and cabin boy, was now Mr. Darwin's assistant. In this sentence, who used to be the ship's fiddler and cabin boy, is the relative clause. It gives us extra information about Sims Covington and is embedded in the middle of the main clause. Notice how we use commas around the relative clause to separate it from the main clause. The tortoise, which Sims was sitting on, was more interested in eating grass than racing. Can you spot the relative clause in this sentence? Pause the video and have a discussion. That's right, it's which Sims was sitting on. It is introduced by the relative pronoun which and provides more information about the tortoise. Can you spot the relative clause in this sentence? Mr. Darwin spotted two frigate birds that cast a large shadow over the beach. Pause the video and have a discussion. That's right, the relative clause is that cast a large shadow over the beach. It provides extra information about the birds and is introduced by the relative pronoun that. Look at this main clause. Add in a suitable relative clause where you see the arrow. The sky was looking angry. Pause the video and have a go on your whiteboards. How did you get on? We added this relative clause. The sky, which was purple and rumbling, was looking angry. Have another go. Add a relative clause into this main clause. The weather could never be relied upon. Pause the video and have a go on your whiteboards. How did you get on? We added this relative clause relating to the weather. The weather, which was so unpredictable, could never be relied upon.